Central team, though.
Yeah,
North Carolina
Yep,
Central.
That's my pick as well.
Yeah, they've been very, very good over the past few years, and they're just like Christian said, a lot of mid majors, very run and gun, and that's what they like to do. And I do see North Carolina Central winning that game, and it should be a good one.
Yeah,
but I don't think they have.
We should clarify too: winning the play-in game, not beating KU.
Right, exactly.
That's what we're talking about here.
By the way, 2 conference champions in a
play-in game.
Yeah,
right.
Going to put it out, MEAC and wherever UC Davis is from. By the way, their
Big
first
West.
ever tournament appearance, and they're not even probably going to really get into the tournament.
I got one thing for you guys, for you panelists here. Just watch this. UC Davis. Ryan, what's their mascot?
They're the Aggies.
They're the Aggies. What about NC Central?
Oh. Actually, I missed that.
Yeah. We stumped him.
We got it.
We stumped him.
And I looked it up too.
Wow.
Aren't they like a bird Hawks something?
The what?
Aren't they the Birds or the Hawks, some kind of bird mascot?
Yeah, it's got to be something general.
I believe they're the Hawks.
Yeah,
We're
something like that.
Up.
Anyway,
they're the Eagles.
They're the Eagles. That's
Yep.
what it is.
Something
It is a
general.
bird, so that's good.
Anyway, any chance these 2 teams beat KU, guys?
Not a chance.
Nope.
It'd be the Bills' selfiest thing to lose in March this way, but no, I don't think they lose.
Yeah. All right, next game we got an 8-9 matchup between Miami and Michigan State. I personally am going to pick Miami here. Michigan State hasn't impressed me at all this year, but Tom Izzo does have a tendency to turn it up in March.
And I think we got somebody that's on our panel that's going to disagree with you that he's ready and waiting to talk. But I do have Miami beating Michigan State as well, not because I don't like Tom Izzo. I like Tom Izzo a lot. Got to meet him and see him coach up close and personal, and he's a really nice guy. I just don't know if they have the horses to beat a Miami team that can run. I know Dominic's chomping at the bit, so Dominic, you take it away. You're the MSU insider. Give us some insight.
All right, here we go. I understand, as watching every single minute of basketball, how frustrating this Michigan State team can be. I will say, however, that I do think that Michigan State matches up relatively well against Miami. I think that Miami is not necessarily like this team that I've seen this year that's going to absolutely beat you up on the inside. That is how you beat Michigan State, because we don't have any real true bigs. With all of the preseason injuries, we've been forcing people like Kenny Goins and Nick Ward to play like these monsters on the inside. I do think, however, that one thing that certainly impressed me is the way that Nick Ward, the way that Miles Bridges, and the way that Tum Tum have been playing towards the end of the season.
I love that name, by the way.
Yeah, Lurin Tum Tum Lands. He is, I love him to death. He is so fantastic. But, yeah, I mean, he runs at a mile a minute, but he has learned to slow things down and actually been a little bit more of a leader on the court. And that's the type of stuff, that type of leadership, I think, is what gets you through these 8-9 matchups. According to ESPN stats and info, if you take like the breakdown of RPI and opponents' schedules, like on a scale of 0 to 100, this is the most not the second most neck and neck matchup. It's like a 91.1 on that scale if you take like all the statistical analysis. So this is not a game you want to bet on, because who really knows exactly what's going to happen? It depends on which team shows up. But I obviously do have Michigan State moving forward. I think that they've shown a lot of maturity in the last couple of weeks. I think that Miami has been on a bit of a downturn. They haven't really closed out games that they had a chance to win. And that's where I think Michigan State's going to have a bit of an edge here. Got to go with Izzo. And, this one wouldn't hurt as much getting bounced in the first round as last year did. But I do think that overall Michigan State is going to match up a little bit better here than they would in maybe some of the other matchups we might have.
All right, let's go over to Geoff. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I think Dom's going to be very surprised, but I do have Michigan State advancing in this game. As I'm sure he knows, Michigan State has been beat up all year. They lost Darren Harris. They lost Gavin Schilling. So Tom Izzo hasn't had the veteran leadership and the veteran presence that he normally has. I think where Michigan State has struggled, and they've sort of gotten better at this as the Big Ten season went on with Tum Tum. with Cassius Winston. They've been able to find other point guards and other ball handlers to sort of keep them in games and really complement Miles Bridges inside. So that's really helped them there. And I think as Dom would probably attest to, they're not your typical Tom Izzo team. They're not going to win all the time with defense and rebounding. But I think Izzo's been here enough. He's going to have Michigan State ready. And I think this game, if Michigan State can assert themselves inside in this game, and also if they can get good guard play and good secondary minutes, maybe secondary scoring from Winston and Nairn and the rest of the backcourt, I think that will set them apart, and they'll get that secondary contribution from the backcourt they've been waiting on all year.
All right, Christian, Miami or Michigan State?
This was the toughest first-round matchup for me to pick. Number one, Hofstra grad George Mason, when they made their run, lost to Hofstra twice in the regular season, so I can't stand Jim Larinaga. I also absolutely love Tom Izzo. I think he is one of, if not the best tournament coach, does the most with the least when it comes time for March. That being said, I don't know if Michigan State has what it takes to be able to hang with this Miami team. I'm not saying it's a blowout. It is going to be a close game, but I do ultimately see Miami moving on just because this isn't the typical Michigan State squad that you're used to seeing.
All right.
I think it ultimately comes down to tempo more than anything, is that Miami does like to slow down the game, and when the game gets slow, you can't be sloppy and you can't turn the ball over, and that's been an Achilles heel for Michigan State all year. They play like freshmen sometimes, so I think if Michigan State can keep the tempo up, that's where they have a chance. But yeah, this is going to be a nail biter for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
There we go. We got two on each side. You're the tiebreaker here, Barry.
Miami. I
Miami?
just like Miami. I like I don't know. I just like the up tempo. I don't like Jim Larinaga like Christian said, but I just think that Miami's got a little bit too much. I know Michigan State. Tom Izzo can coach, and I love Tom Izzo. And like I said before, he is just and like these guys are saying, Tom Izzo is one of the best college tournament coaches ever. But I just can't see them making it past a Miami team. And if they do, they're going to get trounced by Kansas, I think.
All right, moving on. We got another 5-12 matchup here, probably not as sexy as the other ones. Iowa State. Anyone against Iowa State here? Anyone for Nevada? Nope. Didn't think so. I think
I was at one point. I changed it though.
Really?
I had Nevada at one point,
huh?
but yeah, the Cyclones. I just think playing in that conference, playing in the Big 12. I just think they're too battle tested for Nevada. I don't think Nevada's got it.
I completely agree. Iowa State moving on. Purdue and Vermont, the 4-13 here. Catamounts have a chance at all? I'm going to say no.
I think it's going to be. I think. Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You got 29 wins. I mean, there's a chance, but you're talking about Purdue, one of the better teams in the Big Ten. When you look at that conference comparison, I mean, when you get to this point in the tournament, you got to look at conference comparison and Big Ten over America East. You got to go Purdue.
Well, not only that, but you got Caleb Swanigan, who is probably going to be the Big Ten Player of the Year. You've got who's the big guy they have in the middle?
Herman Munster.
I was thinking Lurch, but no, it's. I just think Purdue, like we said, like Christian said, it comes down to conferences. It's where you're battle tested. I think Purdue has. Really shown up this year, and I think both Jeff and Dominic would agree, covering the Big Ten, that Purdue is really the real deal here, and they got a chance to go pretty far.
Yeah, they're definitely hard to handle. They have those twin towers there in the middle, and Swanigan and Haas, and Swanigan just an overwhelming presence. I mean, 26 double-doubles all year, led the nation, but you can't count out Vermont totally. They have won 21 games in a row. They have some quicker guards like Anthony Lamb as an instance, this is a guy that can maybe keep Vermont in it for a while. I just don't see Vermont being able to hang with Purdue's size in the interior at the end. I think they might stay with it there for a bit, but I think Purdue will overwhelm the Cats.
All right, now we'll move on to the bottom half of this Midwest bracket with Creighton and Rhode Island. Rhode Island's been looking pretty good as of late, but I don't think they get it done against Creighton. Marcus Foster is going to be too much.
And Dominic, correct me if I'm wrong, but every single expert that we've heard from all these big networks have picked Rhode Island as their big Cinderella team. I see them getting past Creighton because Creighton is so up and down, but I don't see them getting past an Oregon team. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think that Rhode Island, the way that Rhode Island's been playing in the last month, which is, especially in the tournament, needed to be basically perfect because of all of the injuries that they had. This is a team when healthy probably should be a single-digit seed. I think that's why everybody's picking them over Creighton, but they're definitely not to the caliber of Oregon. I think that Oregon's a really talented team, even with the recent injuries. I think that Dylan Brooks is one of those guards that you'll talk about in like March lore moving on. And so running into that train, I think, is unfortunate for Rhode Island. But Dan Hurley's done a fantastic job with this team. They're super talented. And they beat VCU in the championship game like pretty handedly. It was never really a close game. So I think that they're going to beat Creighton, but yeah, they don't have the firepower to be able to keep up with a team like Oregon.
Everyone in agreement there, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I have Creighton moving on.
You have Creighton moving on. Interesting.
Listen, Rhodey, when healthy, and they are now, is tremendous. And I'm not confident in Creighton, especially without Maurice Watson. Rhode Island's going to move on. And how Oregon fares against Iona will dictate how deep URI goes. But they are the closest to Cinderella we have, simply because they weren't healthy the entire year. Otherwise, like Dom said, they'd be a single-digit seed if they were healthy the whole year.
All right, interesting matchup there. Moving on, Oregon, Iona. I think we can all agree here. The Ducks moving on.
I agree with that totally.
That one is easy.
Don't 100% listen.
Here we
go, Mr. Mid-Major.
Don't 100% count out Iona. Listen, I'm in the MAC. I see them every single year, twice, sometimes 3 times a year. And without Chris Boucher down low, Jordan Washington, the senior, is going to go to work against Oregon. I'm not saying he's going to carry Iona to a victory. I still have the Ducks moving on, but it is going to be a lot closer than I think many people would have initially expected. If Boucher doesn't get hurt, this is a runaway for Oregon. But watch this game because Iona shoots the ball tremendously well. They finally have a legitimate big in Jordan Washington. And not to mention, they've been to the tournament multiple times, even as an at-large, over the last 5 years. You've got guys who are playing in their third NCAA tournament. I mean, this is a very impressive Iona squad. Yes, I'm being a homer because it's my conference, but I still have Oregon moving on. It's going to be a lot closer than people think.
All right, we will keep that in the back of our head when watching that one. I just can't buy into Iona over Oregon. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Oregon. I think they're vastly overrated in the big Pac-12, but I just as much as he tried to sell me there on Iona, still not buying.
I still got Oregon going to the Elite Eight. I still think that Dylan Brooks is going to be the catalyst for that team. I think he's going to carry that team to the Elite Eight. But that's just me. But I'm interested to talk about the next team.
Yeah, I think we got some.
I think Geoff
more
is too.
Insider info here for Geoff between Michigan and Oklahoma State. Geoff, floor is yours.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very. If you like offense, this is going to be a very, very State number 1 in offensive efficiency. Michigan, though, right behind them at number 5. And boy, Michigan's been through so much this year. Through the beginning of the year, there were a lot of people here in Ann Arbor criticizing John Beilein, said he couldn't get this team motivated, said that he couldn't put an effective defense on the floor. Zach Irvin went through a shooting slump, but all these things have changed for Michigan. The defense has been better for them. Facing Michigan for other teams, I think, at least through the first 2 rounds, is Michigan can throw so much at you, whether it's Derek Walton, whether it's Zach Irvin, whether it's the German Mo Wagner. They can hit shots off the ball screen for Oklahoma State. The way I see Oklahoma State stay in this game, they're number 6 in the country on the offensive glass. Michigan's not very good rebounding team. So if Oklahoma State can extra possessions and push the pace, which they like to do, that could cause Michigan problems in the transition game. But I think Michigan, all 5 guys, no matter what 5 Beilein puts out there, their shooting is going to give other teams problems. and I think that carries the Wolverines to victory in this game. But it should be a very, very good game, a game that a lot of people are thinking first-round games in the tournament.
Dom, what do you have to say about this matchup?
Man, there's going to be a lot of points. This is going to be a fun game. I will start, obviously the whole Michigan State thing. I think that the run that Michigan had in the tournament was great. I think that Jim Nance needs to calm down and saying a plane's getting off the runway is the story of March. Like, let's just stop that. This isn't Sully 2.0, so we could calm that down. But I think that Michigan is a very good team. I think that over the course of the last month, Derek Walton has been the best point guard in the Big Ten, potentially the best point guard in the entire country. He has been far and away, and because of his ability to raise his skill set, we see people like DJ Wilson, who is starting to score in buckets. We see Zach Irvin starting to shake it off. The thing that worries me is that Michigan does not and hasn't really played a team in the Big Ten that has the ability to put up points like Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State in the Big 12, I think adjusted offensive efficiency, they're number one in the country. So like one of the number one offenses. The numbers they're putting up are basically historic. This isn't a mid-major putting up 98 points in a game. No offense, Iona, but this is like that kind of a team. So I think that it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. I think that if you bet, you should hammer the over, and I think you should sit back and just get ready to watch how much fun this is going to be. But I do have Michigan moving forward. I think that they're the hot team right now, and they're the ones that are going to end up moving on and making it to the next round.
Perfect. Is Christian there?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to say about this one?
I'm going Michigan. I do think that while it's not the story of March, I do think that the plane incident has a lot to do with what has gotten Michigan to this point. It is a rallying cry for their team, even if it is just within that locker room. They remind me very much of UConn a couple years ago with Kemba Walker. Problem is, Derek Walton's not Kemba Walker. So while I see Michigan moving on, I don't see them getting another round further after they beat Oklahoma State.
Barry, what do you have?
I have Michigan winning. I just think the way they shoot from the outside is just when I saw them against Wisconsin, just their efficiency was just tremendous. With Christian, I don't see him getting past the round of 32. I know a lot of people on this panel are going to disagree with me there, but I just don't see it. I think they're if they're on, they're on. They're lights out. If they're off, I think they're streaky. I think if they're off, they're going to be off. So I'm on the Michigan bandwagon for the first game, but for the second game, I have them bowing out to Louisville, and unfortunately, that vampire-looking guy that we were talking about before.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. Michigan is going to move on the first round, but then get bounced by Louisville. And moving on to Louisville, I think they have a very good shot against first-timers in Jacksonville State. So I think we'll move on past that, go into the region champion. Who do you have winning over who in this Midwest region? We'll start with Geoff.
Midwest region, I have Kansas coming out of this region. I have them taking on who do I have here? I have them taking on Oregon in the Midwest region.
All right, moving on to Dom.
All right, here's where I differ a little bit. My Elite Eight is Iowa State versus Oregon. I don't love this Kansas team. I think that they already lost to Iowa State at Allen Fieldhouse this year. They should have lost at Allen Fieldhouse to West Virginia, with the fans leaving, much to the chagrin of Dickie V. But I think that this is a tournament where we're going to remember the name Dylan Brooks. Living out on the West Coast, I watch a lot of Pac-12 basketball, and Pac-12 After Dark is strong. Oregon is a team that even with the losses that they have, you saw them put up numbers against Arizona in a game that I think the Pac-12 refs kind of ruined there. But the momentum that I think Oregon has, and especially Dylan Brooks, it's going to carry them. So Oregon's going to end up coming out of the Midwest.
Christian, who do you got?
Barry, you know from scrolling my Twitter, there's a hashtag that appears quite a lot during basketball season. That is L1C4, Louisville first, Cardinals for now.
Right.
The Cardinals forever, but I do have, as I love Rick Pitino as a coach. I think he's very, very talented. You look at his coaching tree, it's hard to ignore what he has done throughout his entire his coaching career. That being said, as much as I love Louisville, and I could roll down their entire guys' names like Donovan Mitchell and Dang Adele and Anas Muhammad and Mango Mathiang, they will lose to Kansas in the Elite Eight. I love this Jayhawks team. Frank Mason III, Josh Jackson, who, by the way, if not suspended, Kansas dominates TCU, and they probably, I think, win the Big 12 tournament. So I love this Kansas team. I've got them going to the Final Four.
See, I've got the opposite of you there. I've got Louisville over KU in the Elite Eight because I just can't bring myself to pick the Jayhawks.
See, and I'm with Geoff. I got Kansas over Oregon in the Elite Eight, going to the Final Four. Every time I think of Rick Pitino, I always think of 1991 and their loss to Duke. So Christian Leitner, the shot. I always think of that, and I love watching Rick Pitino. And we always had this saying when we were basketball coaches: the person that coaches with slick back hair is always a cheater. So we always reference John Calipari and Rick Pitino as the two biggest cheaters in college basketball. So, but I have Kansas, like Christian was saying. Frank Mason, Josh Jackson coming off of a suspension. He's got something to prove. I think that this Kansas Jayhawk team is really one to be reckoned with, and I think that's what's going to happen. So,
and the Midwest Regionals in Kansas City,
right?
And Lawrence is only about 40 minutes away, so
right.
That's going to be packed with KU fans. Well,
Absolutely.
That's all we got for the Midwest bracket. Moving on to the West now.
Moving on to the West, absolutely. You got Gonzaga. See, I say Gonzaga. Do you guys say Gonzaga? What's the consensus?
So
the Zags.
Gonzaga.
Okay. I don't know. I have to say Gonzaga. I guess that's just me. But we have Gonzaga moving on against South Dakota State. We're not gonna worry about that one. Gonzaga is really one of those teams that we're going to be talking about shortly. But Northwestern Vanderbilt, that matchup really intrigues me because Northwestern obviously getting to the tournament for the first time in school history. Vandy has a reputation of being up and down in the NCAA tournament. I'm interested to see, Geoff. You've covered Michigan. You've seen Northwestern in person. Are they the real deal, or are they just going to be happy to be there?
Yeah, I think they are just going to be happy to be there. I mean, they have some really good players in Lindsey, who was one of their top scorers all year. He had an injury partway through the season, I think affected the Cats a little bit. But they have that never say die attitude, right? I mean, they've shown that the whole year. I mean, they certainly showed that in their moxie in their last second win over Michigan at Welsh Ryan Arena. They have some good players, but I think Vanderbilt, even though I believe they have the most losses of anybody that got into the tournament, I think the Commodores get this win here.
Okay. What about you, Michigan State? Well, what do you think? You've seen Northwestern as well, so do you think that Northwestern has the ability to pull this off, or do you think that they're just a one and done team?
Ability to pull it off, yes. Do I think they're going to do it? No. While nothing makes me feel better on March 1st than buzzer beaters, especially buzzer beaters over Michigan, I think that Northwestern is they're all so fired up to be able to be there. But look at the way that they got handled in the Big Ten tournament. Like, they had some momentum, they won some games, and then they just sort of fell apart and ended up getting annihilated. I think that they're going to run into – I don't think the adrenaline's going to be able to take them past this round. So I think that the Northwestern falls early. But, hey, congratulations, every professional journalist. You now have a team in March Madness. So
Absolutely.
Good for you.
Christian, are you in agreement that Northwestern is just going to be happy to be there and that's going to be it? They're going to be one and done?
If this game was being played in Nashville at Memorial, yes, I would be in agreement. But I do think that look, I love Vandy, and nothing makes me happier than Florida losing twice to Vanderbilt in a single season, which is what happened this year. But that being said, I do think that Northwestern does have to knock. I think that when you get in for the very first time, a lot of people, especially the big story around Northwestern, is going to be this is your first time here. Chris Collins is going to sit there in the locker room and going, guys, nobody cares that it's our first time here. They only care if we win. So I think he's going to find a way, Chris Collins, to be able to motivate his team enough to come away with a victory here and then promptly get bounced by Gonzaga.
Ryan, you got Northwestern moving on?
I do like Bryant McIntosh. I do like all of the tweets Darren Ravel has been putting out about Northwestern making the tournament, but not enough to beat Vanderbilt. I just think Vanderbilt's a better team. Too much hype around Northwestern just making it to the tournament rather than moving on. That's going to play a little bit into it, but Vanderbilt moves on.
All right. I have Northwestern moving on in this one. I think they win at least one game, but like these guys said, they fall to Gonzaga. The next game, Pete Carrill about 20 years ago introduced us to Princeton basketball. Now, are the Princeton Tigers going to be able to introduce us to another victory over Notre Dame? That's the thing that I want to know. I think Notre Dame has been up and down with Jim Bray, but I think that they are. I think that they're good enough to come out of this with a win, at least to get to the next round. What do you think, Geoff?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, it's a nice story for Princeton, the first year in the Ivy League tournament. But let's remember, Notre Dame plays in the rough and tumble ACC. They've been through some wars this season. You're right, they've been up and down. Just a little bit too much offensive showing for the Irish to overwhelm the Tigers.
Christian, do you agree with Notre Dame moving on here?
100%. I don't know how, as Geoff mentioned, this hasn't been a bigger story. This was the first year ever of the Ivy League Conference tournament, and the best team in the Ivy League won. That being said, it's Notre Dame. You're in the ACC. Princeton's not going to enjoy this. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, Dominic, go ahead.
Yeah, I if Tom Izzo is Mr. Final Four, Bray is Mr. Elite Eight, and to get there, you don't lose in the first round. So yeah, Notre Dame wins this one pretty handedly. We'll find out a little bit later. I really like Notre Dame, especially in this region.
As do I.
I just like Bob Huggins, and I like the way he coaches, and I think he's going to get him past in the second round. But you never know. Because of time constraints, we have to move a little quicker. So I want to highlight one more game in this region, and then I want to get your picks for this regional: Florida Gulf Coast and Florida State. This has been, we were talking about the Midwest region and a lot of the pundits having Rhode Island as their darling. Now in the West, a lot of people having Florida Gulf Coast. Do you guys see Florida Gulf Coast moving on at all? Dominic, I see you shaking your head. Go ahead with your comments.
No, there is not a team that has the benefit of the past as much as Dunk City.
Exactly.
Like 4 years ago, you had a couple of guys that dunked, and you beat a not very good Georgetown team. Like, calm down. You're going to lose by double digits to FSU.
What about you, Geoff? You think they have enough to get past Florida State?
Yeah, I think Dom might have another reason to dislike me, not just because I'm a Michigan guy, but I think at first blush with this bracket, I sort of saw Florida Gulf Coast there, and I'm like, 14/3. Maybe that's the trendy pick. And then I embraced the logic, and I'm like, no, there's no way. I mean, they're living off the reputation from 3-4 years ago. This is not the same team. And let's remember that Florida State, they had their issues in the ACC as well, but they've righted the ship. They're going to be too much, but should be a good game. Good, the state of Florida battle. But I think the Seminoles are too much, and they move on.
Christian, you are the small college mid-major type of guy. Do you go with the mid-major like Florida Gulf Coast?
I can't believe they're actually in the tournament. Truthfully, listen, they are. As soon as I saw the Dunk City highlights coming on, I'm like, please stop. Just we're not doing this again. We're not. I've seen Florida State up close and personal a couple of times, and this is by far every single person I've talked to around Florida State. This is the best Seminole team ever assembled from a basketball standpoint, and I love what they have done. Dwayne Bacon, Jonathan Isaac, Michael Ojo. Tremendous, and it's in Orlando. It's going to be a lot of fun for the fans. It's not going to be fun for Florida Gulf Coast.
Well, to give you my pick in the to make it out of this bracket, I have Arizona. I just don't see Gonzaga having enough to get past a very tough Arizona team. Guys, and I'm going to throw it over to Ryan first. Ryan, do you agree with Arizona?
Wholeheartedly. Arizona over Gonzaga.
Okay. Christian, what about you? What do you have as far as the champion coming out of this bracket?
I've got an all ACC battle in the Elite Eight. I've got Notre Dame and Florida State. This region is the worst region to be a number one seeded because I could see Gonzaga losing to Northwestern. It won't happen. I could see it. Gonzaga will lose to Notre Dame. Florida State will beat Notre Dame and advance to the Final Four.
Okay. Dominic.
Right there with you, 100%. I think that if you look at Notre Dame, I have Notre Dame going to the Final Four.
Okay.
I look at Notre Dame, and while they do have, they have 9 losses this year. Only one of those came to a team that was not in the top 20 in RPI. That's what happens when you go through the ACC. And I think that Notre Dame they're going to beat Gonzaga. I think that Arizona I feel like almost nobody can match up against Markkanen. I still think this Florida State team is going to be able to get past there. And we just saw Notre Dame beat Florida State. They just beat Florida State last week. And I think they're going to do it again. So,
Geoff?
Well, I'm going to be the lone dissenter in this panel today. I do have Gonzaga, Florida State in this region. The narrative time and time again is, will this be the year Gonzaga does it? This is one of Mark Few's best teams that he's had. This is a very, very gifted offensive team. I can't say I've seen them live with the late start, but I have seen a lot of their highlights and looked at them and taken a look at them. And this is a very, very good offensive team. I have Gonzaga going to the Final Four. I think this is their time to do it. And so I'll take the blame. I'll be the lone dissenter in this group.
All right. Well, we have gotten through 3 of our brackets. Let's do the final bracket, Ryan. Let's take it away with the Southern bracket. What are we going to focus on here? We're kind of crunched for time.
Yeah,
so.
we got some focus points here. First off, I want to talk about the Wichita State and Dayton matchup. It's a 7-10. Dayton's the 7 seed. Wichita State is the 10 seed. I personally think Wichita State should not be a 10 seed. It just proves that the selection committee doesn't put too much stock into the Missouri Valley Conference. That's why Illinois State didn't get into the tournament at all. I think Wichita State needs to try and get out of the Missouri Valley as fast as they can. But it's very interesting that a 10 seed is favored 6.5 points over a 7 seed here in this matchup. But I'm picking Wichita State.
I'm picking Wichita State too, and they're going to give Kentucky a run in that second round too. I think they got a huge chip on their shoulder. I think they have something to prove. I think they want to prove everybody wrong, and I think they want to make sure that everybody hears what they and sees what they can do. So I think they're going to give Kentucky a game. I think they're going to lose probably by about 2 or 3 to Kentucky in that round of 32. But Christian, what do you think? You're kind of nodding your head in agreement.
The upset of the first round will not be UNC Wilmington over Virginia. It will not be Rhode Island over Creighton. It will be Dayton over Wichita State.
Ooh.
That is the upset of the first round because Wichita State is severely underseeded. This is a team that is very talented, very well coached, and they have leadership. And when it comes to this tournament, if you don't have guys who have been there before, if you don't have guys that have advanced far before, like a Frankamp, you don't win games. I see Wichita State advancing. I see them giving Kentucky one heck of a fight, but ultimately Malik Monk and the rest of that Wildcat team is too much. I like Wichita State in this game.
Geoff, what about you?
I'm going to agree with most everybody on this panel, right? Wichita State has been there before. They have that coaching staff in place from that magical run a couple of years ago, and they have guys with the experience. I agree with everybody on the panel. I think they're really, really underseeded. They've continued their play their style that they've shown in the past. But I do have them, as I believe Christian said, giving Kentucky a tough game in that round of 32 game. But I do have Kentucky advancing to play UCLA from the South.
Dom, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Wichita State's I think they're going to cover that 6.5 points. That's the crazy thing. In this, I also, just want to throw out there, I have 9, 10, 11, and 12 all winning their first round games. So I think this is that like funky bracket where it's so lopsided between 1-2 and the rest of everybody else.
Dom, how many brackets did you Dom?
What was that?
How many brackets did you win?
Oh, just one. I'm a one bracket man. One bracket.
Okay.
So,
integrity bracket.
for the record, I just want to point out that the 11/6 is K-State over Cincinnati, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Yes, it is.
All right. We got 2.
Well, actually
this panel,
3 because Tyler on Facebook agrees with you that K-State is going to win.
Yeah.
So.
See.
I'm not impressed with Cincinnati at all. I'm really not.
All right, moving on. We got Middle Tennessee State against Minnesota. That's a matchup here in Milwaukee tomorrow afternoon. And this is another 5-12 upset pick that's very popular. Middle Tennessee now is the favorite by 1 point. Minnesota opened it up as the favorite, but not anymore. Real quick, guys, do you think Middle Tennessee State is going to pull off this upset per se? Geoff, we'll start with you.
No, I don't think so. I think much to Dom's happiness after what happened last year. I don't think they have it in them this year. Minnesota's been a very, very good team. A lot of their criticism was that they didn't play a very good non-conference schedule. I think they started something like 12-1, but they have a really great player in Big Ten first teamer Nate Mason. Amir Coffey is a freshman for them. He's been very, very valuable in the starting lineup in getting minutes. He's sort of the player of the future for the Gophers. But I have Minnesota beating up on Middle Tennessee State and advancing.
Dom, does it hurt to hear the words Middle Tennessee State?
That started, like, honestly, as a Michigan State fan, that loss, I didn't realize it was the beginning of just, like, a horrible year of sports, like, rolling into football season. It was so bad. But the thing that would actually make me feel better is not seeing Middle Tennessee State, like, lose in a giant loss. Like, I want to see somebody else get beat by them. It's that misery loves company type of mentality. But I think that Kermit Davis is one of these coaches that is going to end up leaving the school, that's going to be a name that's going to move up in the coaching rankings. I think that he's really put that team on the map. You know, obviously it started last year, but they played a great season. Minnesota has its weaknesses, and I think that if you can not go at Nate Mason, he led the Big Ten in blocks, and if Amir Coffey plays like a freshman, which he very well could, and turns the ball over, this is a game that I could see Middle Tennessee State winning.
All right, now we'll go with the South Region champions here. UCLA has a very good shot at winning this region down here, but I'm still picking North Carolina.
As much as I love North Carolina, I love Justin Jackson, the way he plays. He can do everything. I have UCLA, and not because of Lonzo Ball, not because of LeVar Ball. Okay, I like the other coach's kid. I like Bryce Alford. I like the way he shoots. He's third all-time in scoring as far as UCLA goes. I think he's going to be the one to carry this team, and I think it's going to be UCLA over UNC in a nail-biter. It's going to be one of those classic matchups. I think UCLA is going to win probably 83-81, and it's going to be high-scoring, but I think it's going to be UCLA. So, I'm interested to see to hear what these other guys have to say. So if we can go to if Christian, are you ready? You want to make your final pick here? She's moving around.
This is one of those regions that I don't know how North Carolina got a 1 seed. I really don't. I think Kentucky deserved the number 1 seed in this region. And this is going back to my hatred of how the college football playoff is. If you don't win your conference tournament, you can't be a number 1 seed in my mind. That's just my personal opinion, which also goes against Kansas. But I realize that. Anyway, the winner of this region is going to be that Sweet 16 game between UCLA and Kentucky, just because that's the best matchup in this region. It's the most exciting one. They met earlier this year where UCLA went to Lexington and came away with a win. I love, as you mentioned, I love Bryce Alford. I also love TJ Leaf, and I love what UCLA is able to do. I've got the Bruins advancing past Kentucky and advancing into the Final Four.
Geoff, what about you?
Yeah, I have the Bruins advancing to the Final Four as well over North Carolina for a lot of the reasons that the rest of the panel mentioned. It's not just the Lonzo Ball show. TJ Leaf is a guy that can just shoot it right out of the gym, a guy that Michigan recruited and pretty much everybody recruited a long, long time ago. I knew he was going to be a special player. I think he will be that for UCLA. And And as Christian mentioned, UCLA beat Kentucky already once this year in just a classic game. I think the Bruins, when you see them, they are so hard to stop from everybody on the floor, one of the top scoring teams in the nation. And I think they'll show that versatility and that balance as far as their shooting. And I have UCLA getting to the Final Four over North Carolina.
Dominic?
Yeah, with this region, I do not like UCLA. I think that Lonzo Ball is – if you're able to stop Bryce Alford, I think that you're going to be able to stop Lonzo Ball. And, when you go after Bryce Alford, you see what happened in the game against Arizona. He went 1 for 10 from behind the arc, 2 for 12 from the floor, just played abysmal, and they ended up losing that game by 11 points. I think Kentucky beats UCLA. I actually think Kentucky's going to beat UCLA from like somewhere in like the 8 to 10 point range. But when it comes to the teams in this conference, in this region, I should say, that I think is the most complete, for me, that's UNC. I think that they play 40 minutes better than Kentucky plays 40 minutes. There's a lot of times Kentucky was down by double digits in the first half to teams they shouldn't have been down double digits to, and then ended up turning on the gas. That's something that you can't do in March. You need to play a full 40 minutes of basketball. Now, did they do that against, Mississippi State and do that against Arkansas? Yes, but I don't think that those teams are UNC. So I think the UNC goes back to the Final Four for the second year in a row.
Okay, well, guys, it's that time. You have to pick your champion, and you have to pick. You have to tell us just a brief explanation why. We don't have too much time, so I'm going to give you guys each a minute. I want you to tell me who your champion is, maybe a reason why, and maybe even a final score. So I am going to start with my co-host Ryan. Who is your champion, and who do you have them beating?
Champion is Arizona over North Carolina. I think Arizona has a lot to bring to the table. They got Markkanen, a real good foreign player. And North Carolina also has a lot going for them, too. But I just think that finally this is Arizona's year. They're not playing Wisconsin in the Elite Eight.
Well, they might be playing them in the Final Four. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. But they have just a clear-cut path to the championship. It's in Phoenix, too. Don't know how much that's going to help because Tucson's still 2.5 hours away, but I just think this is Arizona's year. Just finally going to have to get past that threshold for Sean Miller and actually win a national championship.
Okay, Dominic Garrett, you're the insider for Michigan State. Who do you have as your champion, and do you have a score, and who they're going to beat?
Okay, I think that UNC is going to be too much for Oregon, and Nova is going to be too much for Notre Dame, and we are going to have the storyline that every single college basketball fan would dream of, which is a repeat national championship to get that going for a full 2 days. And I think that the result is going to be the same. I like Jay Wright's team. I really, really enjoy the way that they play basketball. I think that Josh Jackson is going to be an amazing pro out of UNC, but my final score is 69-63, Villanova beating UNC.
Christian, our play-by-play voice of the Manhattan Jaspers, who do you got?
I like Nova getting back to the championship game. I do. I think they are a very talented squad, especially with Jay Wright as the head coach, and especially bringing back the bulk of the team that won it last year. I mean, obviously you don't have RGB Aftermill anymore, but you still have guys who were there, including the guy who hit the shot. So they definitely do have the ability to get back to the championship game. I do have them going. Problem is, I have them losing to Kansas. I'm buying in on the hype. I think they're the best team in the country. I think that if Villanova played in the Big 12, they wouldn't be a number 1 seed. And I think that with Josh Jackson back after the suspension, it makes all the difference. I love Frank Mason, again, with his experience. And as long as Bill Self doesn't go Bill Self, Kansas will be your national champion, 71-67 over Nova.
That's ironic. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Geoff, we have Arizona winning it. We have Villanova winning it. We have Kansas winning it. Who do you have?
Well, I have, as the fourth person on this panel, I have a fourth different team winning the national championship. Like Christian said, I like Kansas to get to the title game. Frank Mason has just been a beast inside for the Jayhawks all year. Of course, they have the outside presence at the point position with the Michigan native Josh Jackson. The Jayhawks are going to be there, but I might get a little bit skewered for this pick, but I think it's finally the year for the Zags to do it. I think this is one of the most prolific offensive teams that we've seen in college basketball in a while. This team can really, really shoot it, and they're really hard to beat when they're on. And Kansas, obviously, with their size, they're going to keep this game close. It might come down to the very, very end, but I have Gonzaga pulling it out. I'll say 80 to 78, 80 to 79. It's going to be a good one for the title.
All right. Well, then it comes down to my pick, and I am in total agreement with Christian. Christian, it's ironic that you said 71-67 over Villanova because I have it 71-66 over Villanova. So that's how close we are. I believe that Jay Wright has the talent to get back to the championship game. I just think that this is, like you said, Frank Mason, Josh Jackson, I think this is their year. I think this is the year Bill Self just kind of shuts the book and really closes out a good season, and I think Kansas is going to win it all. So it's going to be interesting to see, and we would love to have you guys, any and all of you guys, back on within the next couple weeks, talk a little bit more about the brackets and the games moving forward. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on our panel. We have had Geoff Chiles, host and producer on 1050 WTKA in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Jeff, thank you for all your insight, and we really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Dominic Garrett, he is the manager of SB Nation's The Only Colors. He's our MSU insider. He also is on Ride the Pine. And Dominic, what is that website? Is it just ridethepine.com?
It's actually ridingthepine.co.
Okay.
Ridingthepine.com is something else. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully people don't go to that site and get mixed up. But thank you very much for all your information, all your insight, and we'd love to have you back on.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you guys.
Christian, once again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us this week. It was awesome. Your insight is nothing short of wonderful, and we appreciate it, and we know we're going to have you back on again within the next couple weeks. Thank you so much.
Guys, love it. Love rooting for the little guys, but it's going to be tough for them this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. And Ryan, wow, it's been a banner day. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
We've Baxter Colburn and David, our engineer, they've been awesome tonight, getting all these guests going, getting all the audio, getting all the video. We were on a little bit late, but we do apologize. We got everybody on tonight, and it was awesome. We do appreciate you tuning in. We hope that you join our bracket challenge. Go to ESPN.com and look for the Bruce Sports group. We are in there. My picks are in. Ryan's picks are in. Everybody else is getting their picks in. You get a chance to win $100 or a Bruce Sports T-shirt. Remember to click on our website, brucesportsnet.com, and wow. That's a lot of information to take in 1 hour. I wish we could sit here for another 2.
Just wait till tomorrow. And Friday.
Tomorrow and Friday, be sure to tune in to all the games. We thank our panelists once again, Geoff Chiles, Dominic Garrett, and Christian Heimall. For Ryan Thies, I'm Barry Nelson saying so long. Thank you very much for tuning into College Road Trip. We will see you next week after the first round of the NCAA tournament. We'll see you next week. So long, everybody.